Project Gemini was the second human spaceflight program of NASA. The goals of the Project Gemini were long-duration spaceflight, rendezvous and docking at extravehicular activity, targeted re-entry, and Earth landing. Achieved 8-day flight necessary for Apollo and 14-day endurance flight for American spacewalk. First rendezvous was the first docking, demonstrated ability to work in EVA without tiring. It was conducted between Project Mercury and Apollo. Missions of the Geminis were Gemini 1 was the first test flight of Gemini. The Gemini 2 was the sportional flight test to test the heat shield. Gemini 3 was the first manned flight 3 orbits. Gemini 4 was the first vehicular activity by an American. Gemini 5 was the first long week. First use of fuel cells for electrical power elevated by guidance and navigation systems for future missions in orbits. Gemini 6 was the first flight involving docking within a Gemini target propulsion stage and blew up on the way to orbit, and it was replaced by Gemini 7. Gemini 7 was determined whether humans could live on space in 14 days. Gemini 6, first space rendezvous accomplished with Gemini 7. Gemini 8 was accomplished, first docking with another space vehicle and unmanned Agena target vehicle. Gemini 9, rescheduled for May dock in the ATDA. Gemini 10, first use of Agena target vehicle propulsion system. Gemini 11, recorded a little altitude with a POGI of 7392 nautical miles, and Gemini 12 was the final flight. Project Gemini was conducted between Project Mercury and Apollo. The objective was to develop space travel techniques in support of Apollo, which had the goal of landing on the moon. Gemini achieved missions for long enough for a trip to the moon and back. All Gemini flights were conducted from Cape Canaveral, Florida, using Titan II Gemini launch systems. Gemini was designed by a Canadian, Jim Chamberlain, formerly a chief of aerodynamics in Avro Aero Fighter Interceptor program with Avro Canada. NASA selected McDonnell Aircraft, which had been the prime contractor for the Project Mercury capsule, to build the Gemini capsule in 1961, and the first capsule was delivered in 1963. The spacecraft was 19 feet long and 10 feet wide, with a launch weight of 8,490 pounds. The Gemini capsule first flew with a crew on March 23, 1965. The Gemini Titan launch vehicles, like the Mercury Atlas vehicles before them, were ordered by NASA through the U.S. Air Force and were in reality missions. The Gemini Titan II, painted in 4 places on each side, on the opposite side, the first and second stage SAF crews maintained the launch completely and prepared and launched all the Gemini Titan II vehicles. Project Gemini estimated cost was $1.2 billion, and I broke down to $7.974 million for the 4 spacecraft and $409 million for all launch vehicles. The spacecraft was equipped with an altitude control system to control pitch, yaw, and roll in space. It is also equipped with an orbit altitude maneuvering system, OAMS, which performed transitions in all perpendicular axes, forward, back, up, and down. In addition to the altitude control system, this was used to alter an orbit inclination and altitude to perform rendezvous and docking with the Agena target vehicle's ATV. The ATV had its own rocket engine, which could be used to perform larger altitude changes. Also, unlike Mercury, the later Apollo spacecraft Gemini's emergency launch escape system did not use an escape tower powered by a solid fuel rocket, but instead it was used by an aircraft-style ejection system. The tower was heavy and complicated. The NASA engineers reasoned that they should do away with it, as Titan II hypergolic propellants would burn immediately on contact. Thus, the boosters exploding. By development of 2 manned spacecraft, the program was operationally complete with the Gemini X2 flight. The project was manned by the Manned Spacecraft Center, Houston, Texas, under direction of the Office Manned Space Height. NASA Headquarters, Washington, D.C. The Manned Spacecraft Center Gemini effort was headed by Dr. Robert R. Gilruth.